All right, so that's where things stand right now as far as the city of Portland is concerned. But they're not alone. For more than a week now, we've been covering Multnomah County's budget problems, what Chair Jessica Vega Pederson calls a catastrophic budget deficit of $104 million in their homeless services department. There have been talks of closing shelters, canceling outreach work, and eliminating rent assistance, just a few of the ideas to fill the hole. Chair Vega Pederson asked the state, regional metro, and surrounding counties for millions of dollars to help. And let's just say that request was not met with open arms or wallets. But in a shred of good news, depending on how you look at it, today we learned more than $30 million of that budget shortfall was money actually meant for reserves or contingencies, basically like a rainy day fund, money set aside to cover unexpected costs. The county is proposing they do not set any of that aside for this next fiscal year, meaning the actual budget deficit is closer to $70 million. Not great, but much less than $104 million. But that's not a done deal yet either. The county says they're working toward an agreement with Metro that would give us the flexibility not to refill those as part of our FY 2026 budget. It is still a policy choice our chair and board will have to decide, along with all other program and service reductions. And today, Metro told us they have, quote, consistently told Multnomah County that in a situation where reserves need to be used, they don't have to be immediately refilled. We increased reserve levels to 15% last year because of concerns about variations in year-to-year tax revenue. So it seems that agreement to ditch filling reserves this year is likely, but the $70 million hole that's left is still a good chunk of change. All of this budget drama and back and forth has many of you frustrated with how the county is handling your tax dollars and the crisis on our streets. We're going to get to some of your comments in just a minute. Trust me, there are a lot of them. Many of you lay the blame at the feet of County Chair Jessica Vega Pederson, and you're not alone. We think this article is worth your time. An op-ed published in the Oregonian over the weekend titled Vega Pederson's Solo Act Hits All the Wrong Notes. Its opening line reads, "Say this for Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Pederson and her go-it-alone approach to leading the county. She makes it easy for the public and fellow elected officials to pick someone to blame." It goes on to say her news conference earlier this month alerting the public of the $104 million deficit for homeless services was, quote, unexpected, seeing as just last year the county had too much money, more than they knew what to do with, and now that's all gone. I'm told it was given to service providers, and now the county doesn't have enough to pay their bills, solidifying what the Oregonian editorial team says is, quote, the sense that the county is flailing for a strategy. So joining us now live is Helen Jung, the opinion editor for the Oregonian and the author of this editorial. Helen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So you wrote what I imagine many of us are feeling right now. We hear a lot of frustration from our viewers about both the lack of accountability around how tax dollars are being spent for the county's homeless services and the chair's messaging around that. So what has been your take recently on how she's handled this budget gap?
You know, I think one of the things that we're all feeling is a certain amount of whiplash because, as you noted, just a few years ago, or for the past few years, the county has had more than it can spend on homeless services. And so to go from that to last month's announcement that we're facing catastrophic cuts, that the county is going to have to close shelter beds and pull back on services that move people from homelessness to housing is alarming. I think it really makes you wonder if the county has a solid strategy, if they have a handle on their funding streams, and certainly I think there's a lot of questions that they need to answer about where all that money, it's about $1 billion since the 2022 fiscal year has gone.
Do you believe the chair called for help too early in this process?
I think so. I mean, again, as you noted, they're already walking back the size of the projected deficit. And that's a conversation they could have had with Metro before the press conference. But also, it's just, you know, and that significant of a change really does undermine faith in the county's management. But also, the chair should not be unilaterally making this call for help from the state and Metro. The budget is not just up to her to decide. It's for the entire county commission to pass. And the city or the county has already made some commitments to the city as well. So if this is truly a collaborative process, which I think all the elected officials continue to emphasize, then they really need to show it by partnering with them, by having these open discussions, as opposed to this unilateral call.
You wrote that staging unexpected hair on fire press conferences is not leadership. Can you expand on that?
Sure. I guess the suddenness of the press conference and the language she was using made it sound like the county had no clue that they were going to be getting less money in the coming year than they had this year. But they know that a big chunk of the budget has been relying on one-time dollars that weren't going to be renewed. Metro also let the county know back in December that it was going to be bringing in less money than projected, and has been working with Multnomah as well as Clackamas and Washington counties to figure out a way to mitigate that. So it's just sort of this sense of hostage taking almost, where the chair is saying we're going to have to close and pull back on all these priorities that the public has. The county has made a number of promises to the public. It needs to find some way to fulfill them.
Helen Jung, opinion editor for the Oregonian, thanks for coming on the show. We look forward to your next piece.
Great. Thanks very much.